Hello everyone, and welcome back to When Nature Strikes. I'm your host Brian, and just before we get into tonight's episode, I just wanted to send a heartfelt thank you out to all the listeners and subscribers. Your support keeps these stories alive, stories of power, of loss, and resilience. Even if you aren't a subscriber, I still appreciate you listening in to these stories. Today we turn our focus to a small town in the Mississippi Delta, Rolling Fork, and a violent tornado that forever altered its landscape and its people. On March 24th, 2023, an EF4 tornado with winds reaching up to 170 miles per hour tore through Rolling Fork, leaving death and devastation. But beyond the statistics and damage reports are real lives, stories of families, neighbors, and a community bound together by tragedy and hope. Rolling Fork is a town of about 1,500 people, nestled in Sharkey County, Mississippi. It's the kind of place where generations of families have lived, worked the land, and built tight-knit relationships. The town's heartbeat was slow but steady. Quiet mornings, church bells ringing on Sundays, kids riding bikes along dusty roads, and neighbors greeting each other by name. Agriculture shaped much of the life here. The Mississippi Delta's rich soil has long supported cotton farms, soybean fields, and catfish ponds. Families often work the land together, passing down traditions and stories through the generations. Local schools serve not just as centers of education, but as pillars of the community. Churches weren't just places of worship. They were gathering points for social events, celebration, and comfort during hard times. Economically, the town faced challenges common in rural America: limited job opportunities, a shrinking population as younger generations moved to larger cities, and infrastructure struggles. But what Rolling Fork lacked in size or wealth, it made up for in community spirit. In the days leading up to March 24th, 2023, meteorologists closely monitored an intense storm system moving across the southeastern United States. A powerful low-pressure system, combined with warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, created ideal conditions for severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center issued watches and warnings, a reminder to residents to stay alert. Yet, even with the warnings, tornadoes can move quickly, and yet true paths can be really unpredictable. On the afternoon of March 24th, skies darkened over Rolling Fork. The wind picked up and clouds churned ominously. Then came the telltale signs: the greenish hue to the sky, a sudden drop in temperature, and the eerie silence that sometimes precedes a tornado. At approximately 6:45 p.m., a tornado touched down just west of Rolling Fork, rapidly intensifying as it barreled through the town. With winds estimated at 170 miles per hour, the tornado was capable of leveling well-built homes, uprooting large trees, and tossing vehicles like toys. The storm carved a path nearly a mile wide in some areas and cut through residential neighborhoods, commercial districts, and farmlands alike. Eyewitnesses recall the terrifying moments: the sound of a freight train roaring overhead, windows shattering, roofs ripping off, and debris flying through the air. One survivor, Mr. James, described seeking shelter with his family in their bathtub as a tornado slammed their home. "I remember hearing things crash and break all around us. We held on tight, praying that it would end soon." Another resident, a local school teacher, was working late, preparing for the next day when the sirens sounded. She rushed home to warn her family and neighbors, emphasizing the importance of heeding weather warnings quickly. When the storm finally passed, the full scope of devastation was clear. Entire blocks were flattened. Churches, where people had worshipped for decades, were reduced to rubble. The local high school sustained severe damage, delaying classes for months. Tragically, at least 17 people lost their lives, including several children. Hundreds more were injured. Emergency responders rushed in from Mississippi and neighboring states. conducting search and rescue operations well into the night. The town's emergency management faced enormous challenges. Blocked roads, downed power lines, and damaged communication networks made coordination quite difficult. Hospitals in nearby cities prepared for an influx of patients, and volunteers began arriving with supplies, food, and shelter. The emotional toll was immense. Survivors grappled with grief, trauma, and uncertainty about the future. Yet, even in the darkest moments, the community's strength showed. One powerful story came from a local pastor, Reverend Taylor, who opened his church as a refuge. "We had no walls left, but we had hearts wide and open," he said. The church became a hub for distributing aid, providing meals, and holding vigils. Neighbors helped neighbors, pulling debris from yards, sharing generators, and offering temporary housing. A group of high school students organized food drives and cleanup crews, showing remarkable leadership despite their own losses. Miss Linda, who lost her home, said, "I never imagined my world could change so quickly, but the kindness of people I barely knew gave me lots of hope." These personal stories remind us that recovery is not just about rebuilding structures, it's about restoring the fabric of a community. Rebuilding Rolling Fork has been a massive undertaking. Federal aid through FEMA and state grants provided crucial funds, but the process has been slow and sometimes frustrating. Many families faced insurance hurdles, contractors' shortages, and the emotional strain of starting over. Schools operated in temporary buildings for months. Infrastructure repairs, from roads to water systems, stretched into 2024. Yet, progress continues. New homes are rising, businesses are reopening, and the town spirit is intact. Community leaders emphasize the importance of improved tornado preparedness, better shelters, and public education to minimize future loss. The Rolling Fork tornado was a stark reminder of nature's unpredictability and power. It highlighted the importance of timely weather warnings and community readiness. But beyond meteorology, it was a story about people, their loss, their strength, and their determination. In rural communities like Rolling Fork, recovery can take years, but the bonds formed in crisis create lasting resilience. Thank you for joining me on this episode of When Nature Strikes. If you found this story valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the video. Also, be sure to check out the Border City Kids page on YouTube, where you can find all the podcast episodes. Some of the episodes you might enjoy include a deep dive into the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the chilling story of the 2011 Joplin tornado, which struck during a graduation, and the historic Hurricane Katrina, which destroyed New Orleans. There's something for everyone who wants to learn about nature's power and human courage. Stay safe, stay prepared, and remember, nature's fury is sudden, but human strength endures. I'm Brian, and thank you for joining me. Have a good night.